I'm just going to show you a book that I'm repairing or rebinding. I've already taken the old sewing out, strengthened the spines and pierced holes in the book itself. But the end papers that I'm going to use are leather jointed end papers. And I just wanted to show you how I made these. These are going to go obviously on the book like so, and the leather therefore is going to be in the joint and go over onto the board as a decorative feature really. The way I've made this one, and there are many ways to do this, but the way I've made this one is I've got a single folio of suitable, in this case handmade paper, onto which I've glued a piece of marbled paper. The marbled paper then has been folded around onto the back of the folio, just a couple of millimeters or so, and then my thin piece of leather I have secured simply by gluing it along that edge by probably 2 millimeters, just a 2 millimeter edge to that. Obviously with the good side on the correct side, so that it will be seen when it's in the book. Now the leather itself is being thinned down to about 0.5 millimeters, but this edge that goes onto here actually has been pared down to nothing, so it's a very, very thin sort of area. That's partly so you don't get too much of a lump there, but also at the point at which it's going to be flexing when the book opens and closes, you don't want the leather to be too thick. You don't want it to be too thin either, otherwise it will lose all its strength, but you certainly don't want it to be too thick. So there's a sort of gradual reduction of the thickness down to this edge. Now of course you don't want to be able to see this, but what I've done on the first section is just added a little piece of paper which is folded, it's actually folded around this first section, glued onto the back, just tipped onto the back, and I've also pierced right through that. So that's simply going to be a hinge which will basically be glued onto the inside like so, and that will actually cover up that piece of marble paper and the edge of the leather so you don't actually see it. Now I could just tip that on to a section without that hinge, but the problem with that then is that of course you have the problem of this first page sort of lifting as you open the end paper. So just to have that extra hinge on there just allows it to open fully without pulling this page up, and as I say, it masks this raw edge. Now of course what I could also do is have another folio, two-sheet folded folio at this point, which is tipped on here, masking this edge. It just gives you an extra couple of free blank end papers, but you can actually use that in your design. It can be different colours, for example. So this can be masked in different ways essentially. So that's a leather jointed end paper. It also means that when I actually sew through this, because I'll sew through the end paper as well as the sections, I'll sew through this, I'm actually sewing through the folio, I'm sewing through the marbled paper that's hooked over the edge, and I'm also sewing through the leather as well. So it's quite a strong sewing point that, and everything will be held nicely in place that way. So that's a leather jointed end paper.